This is Marco Accelerate Games, and I am back with another good, bad, ugly review where I kind of discuss, well, not kind of, but I do discuss the different choices, different options, different characters. Pretty much everything that happened in episode 2 of The Walking Dead season 3, the ties that bind part 2. And this episode, of course, they were both released concurrently at the same time, so you got a chance to play episode 1 and then go right into episode 2, which is really good. I think it actually worked to the pacing and the surprise, especially at the big reveal at the end of this episode, which I'll touch in just a minute. But let's start with the beginning. So in the beginning, either you are Javier with Clementine because you chose to stay with her, or you're Javier with Kate because you chose to stay with your family. Now, regardless of whatever choice you do choose, the consequences are going to be somewhat the same. What I mean by that, the ultimate consequence is that the New Frontier, they're going to come to Prescott and attack you. So that's not going to change no matter which one you choose. They're going to figure out who you guys are and where you guys stay and come there with, big guns blazing. But what's going to change, though, is whether Clementine trusts you more or not, or whether your family trusts you more or not. So they're again throwing that wedge between Clementine and your family. Of course, Clementine, if you stay with her, she's going to say, oh, I think you saved my life. If you abandon your family and not stay with them instead. And if you went with your family instead, Clementine is not going to be very happy, saying that she barely got away or something like that, and that in essence she's going to show up with the bad guys right behind her, which isn't going to give you much option. Now, when the New Frontier comes to Prescott, pretty much they roll up to your front door, kind of like how the governor rolled up to the prison with Rick, and pretty much said, hand over Javier, or we're going to pretty much run this place down to the ground. And it turns out pretty bad for everybody involved. So Javier has two options. Either he could go down there and surrender himself, or he could pretty much say, to heck with you guys, I'm not coming down there, whatever. They do capture Francine and hold her hostage. So that, is a pivotal moment. And the big consequence of that choice, whether you decide to surrender yourself to free Francine, or if you decide to sacrifice Francine, is that Conrad will be severely affected by that choice. And Conrad would either, if you, of course, sacrifice Francine, he will call you all sorts of bad word. If, on the other hand, that you do not, you do surrender yourself and try to go down there to give yourself up to the New Frontier, Clementine is actually going to shoot one of them, which triggers the whole big fight, resulting in Prescott getting. Either one you choose is going to result in a big fight. Because if you sacrifice Francine too, it's going to trigger a fight also, where they're going to sacrifice or shoot Francine right in front of Conrad, and everybody's going to open fire. It's going to start a big fight again. So either way, Prescott is doomed. Now, the biggest outcome of that is that Conrad could either be mildly pissed at you, or he could be extremely pissed at you for sacrificing Francine. It's your choice. Either way, it's going to trigger a standoff between Conrad and Javier. I should just call him Javi, just for short. Javi, after they escape from Prescott. And after they escape from Prescott, Conrad pretty much pulls a gun on Javi and says, this is all your fault. You led him to us. This is so messed up. Bunch of curse words, whatever. And Javi's nephew, Gabe, pulls his gun and Conrad and said that, don't you threaten my uncle, if you do that again, I will kill you, this and that. And so you have a choice of telling Gabe to either shoot Conrad or put the gun down. Of course, if you tell him to shoot Conrad's gonna be like, are you serious? And then, but at the same time, Conrad is holding his gun at Javi. So you're like, what, you're asking me if I'm serious, but you're holding your gun at me? Like, come on, dude. So it's just kind of funny that, that actually kind of happens. So it's a three-way standoff, or not a Mexican standoff, but a three-way standoff. So that's kind of what happened on the little road trip afterwards. So after their little, powwow on the road, they actually decide that they should head to Richmond because there are a lot of settlements in that direction. And on their way to Richmond, they actually ran into this town that was had a blockade, and so they had to get out and kind of move things around. And not really much in terms of character development happened, but there is a moment in there where if you speak to Clementine, she kind of reflects on a couple different things. One, she reflects on what happens with whoever she chose to be with. So if she was with Jane, she'll make a comment to Javi about what happened with Jane. She actually even mentioned Jane by name. However, in the situation with Kenny, if you're with Kenny, she doesn't mention him by name. She just mentions that she was with somebody, with someone, and they die. So it kind of shows a little bit of reflection of what happens there. And of course, if you choose the other choices, whether it's Wellington or by yourself, she says something, reflecting on what happened. So it's kind of interesting that they say that she actually gives you a little bit of backstory in terms of to Javi in terms of what happened to her. Now, of course, you can't stay anywhere in Walking Dead for too long without walkers coming after you. So, After figuring out what exactly to do, they were able to get through the blockade, but as a result, an onslaught of walkers came through, attracted by the noise, or really hiding in the behind the blockade. Kate and Eleanor were able to get through to Richmond. However, when Javi and the rest of the group were able to escape the walkers, they ran into Jesus, and Jesus explained to them that Richmond was actually taken over by the New Frontier. So Kate and Eleanor are heading directly to the New Frontier. Now, during this time, during their trip with Jesus, they ran into some more walkers, but the biggest, of course, revelation being that Clementine reflected on what happened and her running into a woman actually from the New Frontier named Ava. And Clementine revealed to Javi alone that she actually ended up joining the New Frontier a while back, and she even has the tattoo to show it. But Conrad overhears this, and he kind of comes up with an idea of his own. So Clementine mentioned to Javi that it's probably best that when they get to Richmond, that the New Frontier do not see her, and the reason why is because she kind of left it, a bad taste in her mouth. More than likely, is either she's killed a few people or something has happened, because she isn't afraid to kill people now. So I'm guessing that she got in some pretty rough stuff when she was at Richmond. So we'll see. We don't know the full story yet, but I'm sure we're gonna have another flashback showing what happened during Clementine's time at when she was with the New Frontier. But after they escape the several zombie encounters, Conrad, Clementine, Javi, and Gabe end up alone, and Conrad pulls a gun on all three of them and said that he's gonna use Clementine as a bargaining chip for the New Frontier. Now, what I don't understand from this, and I understand they wanted to give Conrad a reason to, have some conflict, because it was kind of building up earlier in this episode. But I don't understand what exactly is he going to trade with the New Frontier. He's going to use them, Clementine, to get in there and live there. I didn't quite understand that part. I was a little confused that they will make Conrad turn heel so fast. I feel like they should have saved the option to kill Conrad for later on. Maybe he was given a choice between, saving somebody and killing Conrad, and Conrad did something selfish that promoted Javi to kill him. Say maybe he accidentally let walkers in because he was being, wasteful, or whatever you want to call it. But the bottom line is that I didn't agree with the fact that they made Conrad hold Clementine hostage for a bargaining chip, and a bargain that you don't really understand, because it was a little confusing for me. So that part I was kind of like, so you're gonna bargain with a New Frontier to get a 1-bedroom apartment or something? What are you gonna do? So I guess that's probably what he was thinking, since he's not used to living out there on his own outside of the comfort of his bar. So maybe sometime when people are put in a situation like that, they react differently, and maybe this is Conrad's character, thinking of survival first, which it does happen. I just felt like it was a little bit rushed. I feel like it should have made it happen maybe beginning of episode 3. So it's kind of like one of those things. But I mean, it did play out well. It's just that this episode definitely feels rushed from, not rushed, but the pacing was much faster. So I guess, they kind of mix it up a little bit, which is fine. His death, you do have the option to actually either betray Clementine and let Conrad use her as a bargaining chip, which, that's a tough choice to choose. And I think only a small percentage of people actually chose, maybe 10%, or the other option is to shoot Conrad. But either way, if you let time run out, by the way, he does shoot you and kill you. So you have to make a choice, one or the other. Either kill him or betray Clementine. So that is a huge pivotal choice. And of course, killing him results in Trip getting really pissed off, because unless you tell him the truth. Now, if you tell him the truth, then Trip might be pissed off at you, and then you might have another situation where Trip might be later on trying to kill you or blame you for everything that happens, because technically everything did happen as soon as you show up to Prescott. So Javi has a choice of telling Trip the truth or not, your choice. But either way, if he doesn't know the truth, then Trip will only be mad at just the situation in general versus being mad at someone directly. So that's a good way to kind of look at it. And this episode is actually a little bit shorter than the beginning episode. So after you decide whether you want to shoot Conrad or betray Clementine, you actually make it to Prescott. Well, not Prescott, but to the New Frontier. And pretty much, since you're out of options, out of town, any place to go, you pretty much beg for either mercy or entrance to get medical treatment for Kate. Now, keep in mind that Eleanor actually went up ahead, and she was captured by the New Frontier. So you found Kate in the car by herself. and Javi, pretty much at their mercy, goes to the New Frontier and begs for their medical supply. And of course, you could either capitulate to them, or you could actually be defiant and say, no, we're not putting our gun down. But at the end of the episode, it's revealed that the New Frontier, I think the New Frontier leader is David. Javier's brother, Kate's husband, and Gabe's father. And I'm curious to see what is going to happen when David finds out that the New Frontier killed his daughter, shot her point blank in the head. A lot of people are speculating that David, is probably going to end up killing whoever did that, or make some kind of sacrifice, saying that you break the rules. I told you to bring them back to me, regardless of who you are, so we can see, but you didn't listen. Instead, you actually went and assaulted your town and killed my daughter. So, if somebody, I think there's going to be some kind of retribution that David is going to do towards the New Frontier. And there's a couple different ways to see this happen. Either he's going to set an example, or the example he sets is going to be, he sets an example, and the example is either too extreme, which result in either the New Frontier possibly turning on David, and so David is going to have to get kicked back to his family, or I think he's going to set an example, and there's going to come to a point where Kate maybe live and survive, and there's going to be a conflict between Javier and David. But I think it's more so that there's going to be a conflict between Javier and David, because pretty much it's confirmed that Javier is with Kate, his brother's wife, and that's going to be all types of soap opera or novelas, as they say in Espanol, so it's going to be kind of interesting to see what actually happens with that in episode 3. We don't know when episode 3 is going to be coming out yet. They haven't made any announcement date. More likely, I think it's going to come out this month. And my speculation for that is that they released episode 1 and 2 together, but originally it was stated that November 20th was when episode 1 was going to be released by itself. However, they pushed it back and decided to release 2 episodes on December 20th. So I'm thinking that they probably already have episode 3 done, and it's going to release it January 20th. That's what I'm thinking. So 18 days is what we're looking at, because today's the 2nd. So we'll see. But either way, I'm pretty excited to see where the characters go from here. My biggest conflict I see happening is, one, David and Javi, of course, having a conflict. You, of course, as Javier, will have a secondary conflict choosing between your family and Clementine. So those are the two big consequences I see happening. Trip could potentially be a problem for Javi later on, depending on what choice you choose. If you choose to tell him the truth, he could possibly be another or secondary antagonist, because he's mad that, one, Javi showing up caused them to lose Prescott, and then he lost his best friend Conrad as well as Francine because of Javi. So he's lost a lot. So who knows? Trip could develop into a bad guy, or he could die like a good guy, sacrificial lamb and all. So we'll have to wait and see. But I do like Trip as a character. He's actually really funny. I'm actually tempted to do a separate video just on Trip with all his responses, because he has so far some of the best responses I've heard in season 3. So he's like the funny guy, comic relief, but in a serious macho way. So either way, let me know what you think of the review. Definitely, I like this one. I'd say I'd probably give it like an 8 out of 10. The characters have developed to the point where you can kind of see who works well with the other and who could potentially have conflict. Gabe and Clementine are getting together. I don't know what's going to happen with that. Maybe they might get together, or who knows. But for the most part, it seems like Gabe likes Clementine and Clementine likes Gabe. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens in terms of that aspect. So there's a lot of little inter stories and inter character conversations happening to see where that will take us as a whole. So thank you guys for watching the Good, Bad, Ugly review. Let me know what you think of your, the choices I did, as well as the choices you've seen. And this is a discussion video, so I want to hear your feedback, your thoughts, and where you think you think is going to happen in episode 3. Do you think David is going to die right away? Do you think he's going to survive until the end of the season? I think they're going to draw it out a little bit, because they killed a lot of people in the first 2 episodes. I mean, they killed his daughter in the first episode, so I don't think they'll kill him in episode 3. But I could see him at least last until maybe either episode 4 or to the end of episode 5 as the main antagonist. As for Kate, I'm pretty certain that Kate is going to die. So, we'll see. I'm taking bets here. As for Clementine, well, we got to wait and see. I don't think they could kill Clementine, but at the same time, you never know. This is Walking Dead. They killed Lee. So, who knows? Maybe Javier might take over the series, maybe not. And they could very well kill Javier too. So again, that's what I love about this series, that you don't know who could live and die. So, but that's what makes a good story, good characters, that you don't know. So, definitely let me know what you think about episode 2, and I'll see you guys in episode 3.